Hey guys, so I had a couple of requests for a video on some techniques for doing armor and that kind of thing. So I haven't really put a whole lot of prep into this, so bear with me. Okay, so starting off, I'm gonna whoops, might need that. I'm gonna work with this hover tank pilot. Now, normally it depends on the kind of wear and tear you want to do for your armor. But this guy here, he's pretty much stock as, factory. So let's pop that. There we go. Pop the head off. You just gotta kind of imagine what kind of detail you want to bring to the armor, like what kind of wear and tear he might have been through, what kind of shit he's seen, So, one thing I like to do is first I'll use a blade and kind of score, just give some scratches and poke a little bit of holes, that kind of thing, because it helps, I find, give a bit more dimension to the damage. Instead of just painting it on, it's actually got a little bit of depth to it and can help it look a bit more real. If you want, you can also use Dremel. Just grab. Oh, that was my computer. Let me just grab some pieces here and show you. Okay, you can get a basic Dremel kit on sale from pretty much any hardware store for pretty cheap. I got mine for $40. Came with a 250 piece accessory kit, which is pretty darn cool. Excuse me. So, some of the bits you will need are like this. It's got, as you can see, it's got some plastic on there and stuff already from being used. That on a low speed can work pretty good. And where's that little baby? Ah, there it is. This one right here, it's almost got like a screw head on it. I was trying to get it to focus there. Come on, you can do it. Anyway, it basically has like a screw head. I use that to bore out the holes on Boba Fett's jetpack thrusters. So that at a low speed you can use to make like little pock marks, that kind of thing. If you do plan on doing a lot of head swapping, I recommend you bore out the hole inside the helmet a bit, just because it makes it a lot easier and there's less chance of damage. Okay, so starting up, you're going to want to have some metallic paints. These I've got, and they're a bit old. I've had them for years. These are Testors. Testors brand. This is flat steel. You're also going to want like a gunmetal. I've got an aluminum somewhere. Here's some more flat steel. And there's flat silver. There's just metal. You just want something that looks like metal. Yeah. And I've got some black and some beige. I use this kind of stuff just because it's super cheap and I can get it easy and I can get a lot of it. So I use some black, some beige, and I need a brush. Where are you? There we go. Just one sec. Bear with me. Okay. So first off, I like to work in layers when I do my armor damage. I will usually do like a gray to sort of outline, especially if it was like some kind of like rub damage, and it just basically rubbed the paint off. So I'm going to use some beige and some black. And you can see my little dirty palette there. I'm just mixing up some beige here with some black. Okay. Now, hopefully this is not too out of focus. Let's start with just getting the brush nice and loaded. Okay, now let's put a little bit right along there. And this is just sort of a wash type thing to block in where the damage is going to be. But you want to think of where areas would come into contact with stuff. Like where it would touch, where it would rub, that sort of thing. So really like the raised areas on the armor. And now, it's always good to have a couple extra brushes on hand, especially if you want to sort of brush it on. Now, usually it's a bit wet right now, so it's basically just acting like a wash, which is good. I mean, you do want to do a wash at some point to help establish the details and just make it look a little grimier, you know? So if you do a little bit of dry brushing, though, that is the ticket. So I'll need to get a little bit more paint out. Where's my black right there? Actually, let's use some testers. There's the camera. Flat gunmetal. So I'm going to use some of that. Just make sure you shake it up nice and good. There we go. Now, just a little bit of that. Get that brush. Good. When you damage the surface of the armor first, it gives the paint something to stick into. So it helps give a little extra dimension and just makes it look a little bit more convincing, I find. So let's just get the edge there. And the thing that you're going to want to keep in mind with this Testors brand is that it's actually, I believe it is, where, yeah, I think they are usually enamel, which can be a little trickier with drying and that kind of stuff if you're not careful. But there's a little bit there. So I need to get my shoulder. Flat steel, let's use some of that. If I can get it open. Oh god, this hasn't been open in a while, so it's really friggin'... There we go. There we go. Okay. Got a little bit worried there for a sec. Okay. Now I'm gonna get some of the silver. Oops. Sorry, no, I'm really used to recording as I do this, so I might get a little quiet. Where is this over there? Come on. It's been sitting a while, so it's hard to get some paint up there because she's settled a bit. There we go. Okay. One thing that can work pretty good too is silver Sharpie. Just especially if you want to do some highlight and that kind of thing. Now a little bit more. So this paint is still pretty wet and fresh, so you just want to keep that in mind. And if you like, you can also kind of work it to blend it a little bit more. Let's see if I can get that to focus there. Okay, so you can see the dark of the gunmetal and the silver of the highlight of the metal. So it sort of looks a bit more like carbon scoring, really, or like it's been sort of burned a bit. One thing I notice some people don't do so much, I'm just going to clean my brush, is they sort of ignore the underside of the helmet. Like that. It's just stock. It's, oops. To me, if you notice it, because there's some poses where you will, it can be a little like, oh, they didn't do anything there, because especially if you can see the real 1/1 scale version of the Stormtrooper helmet, they've got the black seal around the rim, the neck rim, I guess. And I don't know, it just, to me, it looks a bit better if you can mask it. So it looks a bit more convincing. So I like to just paint the inside or use Sharpie or something. But the thing with Sharpie is that you gotta seal it, otherwise it'll just rub off and stain. I had an old Trooper here somewhere that I didn't seal, and I used some red Sharpie on him, so it got pretty stained, and he looks kind of pink now. Which is something I can still work with, it just means I gotta refine it later and fix it up. But, yeah. I know I might be getting a little off topic here about the armor, but it's hard when you think of stuff right off the bat. So, yeah, there's the inside painted a little bit. When it's on the head, or the body, sorry. There we go. See, you can see the black underneath, where normally you'd be able to see where it's just that color of plastic. I'll look at the black here. Let's get a little bit of water in the mix and do some washing. Washing can work really good for like dirtying up a figure, bringing out details and that kind of stuff. And I do like now that we're seeing more Stormtroopers and that kind of stuff that are dirty. Like they're not all pristine and working on the Death Star and all that crap. So, yeah, it's kind of good. I usually like to use two brushes, which I'm sure most people do. One to apply and one to kind of wipe. So, oh, sorry, most of that was out of frame. But yeah, one brush to apply, one brush to wipe. And you can do different layers to get different depths of dirt and grime and all that crap. Okay. So this stuff is still a little wet for the armor scoring. Yeah, I'm trying to get back on the subject here. But just adding some washing. There we go. Then use the dry brush. It helps cover, mask, and blend, especially when you've been mixing the two colors on top of each other like that. Yeah. So basically, the more prep work you put in before you put on the armor paint, the more detail it'll bring out. So using your tools like your knife and your Dremel, or even just a little screwdriver, kind of like oh crap, where'd that go? I just used it. I've got a little hand drill that I use for like everything, and it has been one of the best investments I have made in this hobby for a long time. Good God, where'd that go? Oh, shit. It was right in front of my face. This is my little hand drill. It's got a little bit in it. It came with a bunch of other bits too, the same size, but it's about the same diameter as like a paper clip, which I use pretty extensively. That can work great because it's kind of sharp on the edge of the bit there, so you can sort of scrape and make little holes. Because it can work pretty good for doing like a pockmark kind of effect. And then you put the paint on and it sticks to the holes, and it'll give you a lot more depth, which is really, really good. This is basically just a donor figure that I'm just working on for fun. I'm not planning anything with this guy yet. Yeah, one other thing with this drill is that it works really good with blasters. You just use it to open up the end of a blaster. Get that up there. Now let's see if I can get that in focus here. Itty bitty hole. So then you can use your silver flat steel or whatever you use, or even this silver Sharpie. Oh crap. Well, I needed to fix that up anyway. So anyway, yeah, the silver can work good for giving like a little muzzle flash, blast effect, wear and tear on the muzzle of the blaster. I know this may not have been the most direct of videos, but I'm still pretty new at this. The video part, anyway. Yeah. I can take some pictures of the armor and put it up on my Instagram. It's just at Pickle Monkey. That's me. Pretty much anywhere you find a Pickle Monkey, that's me. So, yeah. I'll take some pictures up. They'll be up pretty soon. And I just wanted to show you I've been working on in the meantime anyway. I did a head pop and made another Fleet Trooper out of fin. I still need to properly secure the head with some hot glue. I might bore out the head socket a little bit more. And you can tell this is kind of warped because I was stupid and popped the other head off without using heat, and I almost tore the ball out, which would not have been super good. You can tell that I'm not super great with matching the skin tones yet, but I'm colorblind, so give me a break. Yeah, I just need to put some glue in there, pop it on, he'll be good to go. And if you've got an extra Krennic kicking around, works good for that too. You just basically gotta bore out the hole in his neck, or the head I guess, and then pop it on. Hot glue is your friend, especially if you want to make these kind of permanent, but still keep the articulation. You can still move the head all over the place, and it works out pretty good. So that was quite the tangent. Okay, if anyone has any ideas for anything to do next, or would want to see more of something, you just let me know one way or another, like Instagram or comment here. And yeah, thanks for checking this out.